So he, over the course of a week, he relented and shared with me one of the exercises that they do, how they go about picking people. And so basically the exercise is this, that you get into a big diving pool that's 15 feet deep, and the guys jump in with a swimsuit, and the guy says, when I blow the whistle, you swim down and touch the bottom of the pool. And then you come back up, and you wait for the whistle to be blown, and then you swim back down to the bottom of the pool. At which point in time he blows the whistle and everybody goes down. Now for those of you who swim, you know that from treading water going down 15 feet and come back up, that's quite a challenge. And when you come back up, you're out of breath. But everybody makes it the first few times, and he lets them take a couple of breaths, they blow the whistle, and they go back again. Okay? You notice the second time down there's a couple of frogmen down there, and you think that they're there to make sure that you touch the bottom. That's not what they're there. They're there to make sure that you don't drown. The fact of the matter is, they don't care if you touch the bottom or not. Eventually what happens, a couple of guys get to where they can't touch the bottom, and they come back up, and they're out of breath, and they swim over to the side of the pool, and they get out. And when you do that, they say, thank you for coming, and then you leave. And the exercise continues. Keep in mind, no one told them that they failed, and no one told them to get out of the pool. They assumed themselves that they failed, and they got themselves out of the pool. And what he said, eventually, almost everyone will do that. When they don't touch the bottom, when they didn't achieve whatever the task is, they immediately assume that they failed, and they disqualify themselves. And that's exactly what we do, isn't it? But he said every now and then, he said, you'll get a guy, and he can't get to the bottom, but when he comes back up, he stays in the pool. And the whistle goes again, and he goes as far as he can, and he comes back up. And it gets to the point where all he can do is kind of stick his face in the water back down. Okay? And at the point that they realize that you're not going to get out of the pool, they blow the whistle 3 times and say the exercise is over. He goes, those are the guys that we keep. We have to go through hundreds to get to one. Because here he said, here's what's happened, Stan. These special forces missions, we have a plan, we have a strategy of how it's going to go, but a lot of times it doesn't work out the way. In other words, the mission fails. And what you need to know is what you're going to do when the mission fails. As a golf coach, you want to know, what's a kid look like when they're having a bad round, okay? Because I know what all of you look like when you're having a good day. You're happy, you're smiling, hey Stan, good to see you. You're friendly, you're talkative. I know what you look like when you're having a good day, but what do you look like when you're having a bad day? See, this is what differentiates us. When you're all at your best, you're plenty enough and you can accomplish whatever it is you need to. But what about when you just can't get to your A game? What do you do then? What do you do when you're told no? What do you do when you're told you're not good enough? What do you do then? That's the real differentiator, isn't it? And that's what I'm saying, is that people who really, that we think of successful people, they're not successful because they didn't fail. They're successful at what they did fail. And when they did experience failure, they didn't quit. And that's it. I wish I could say something a lot fancier and smarter than that, right? You know, and have some success equation, you know, where I would, you know, have algebraic symbols and maybe even calculus, you know, and break it down for you that way. But there's not a roadmap for your success. You've got to make your own map. And you're going to have people tell you you're lost. Keep going. Yes, sir, you got a question?
I do, if you're open to questions.
I'm totally open to questions.
All right, great. So thanks for your presentation. It reminds me, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, and I want to make sure I understand completely.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that you're good enough,
Yes.
you mean that, I think what you mean is that you've got all the gifts, all the abilities that you need to succeed. But what about using those to your greatest potential? In other words, not everybody on Shauna's team as of today, and not all of us in the room, are using our giftedness and, you know, what we're blessed with to its fullest potential. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
So within the context of your talk, in other words, you're good enough, how do you fit that?
Well,
that in?
the way that you know that you're using your full potential is that you experience failure, okay? In other words, what I'm saying is, if you go back and look at the word perfect that we have in our culture, we use it a lot, right? This word perfect. It's a Greek word that means to be whole or complete. We have kind of bastardized the word perfect to mean that you don't ever mess up, okay? So think about perfect as this way. If we ordered a pizza, okay, and it's sliced into 8 pieces, and you open the box and all 8 pieces are there, that is by definition a perfect pizza. It is whole. The minute one of us take a slice out, it is no longer perfect, okay? So what you see in a lot of religious literature around this concept of perfect, the request or the demand, if you will, is to be fully and completely you. Okay? Be fully and completely you. What I'm suggesting to you is most of us believe that even when I'm fully and completely me, I'm not enough. And what I'm saying is, I disagree with that. What's interesting about human beings is that we kind of we give ourselves the right to pass judgment on ourselves. You follow me? In other words, if I was standing up here and I was being critical of Sean and I was passing judgment on her, let's just say we're a circle of friends. One of you might say, you know what, Stan, it's really not your place to pass judgment on her and be critical of her. You need to back off of that. And if I'm a reasonable person, I'd say, you know what, you're right, it's not my place to pass judgment of her. And I should stop and I go, I'm sorry. But then I would turn around and do the exact same thing to myself. And what I say is this is me. I can treat me however I want to. And what I'm saying is, no, you can't. What do you think gives you the right to stand in judgment and be critical of yourself? And you go, well, I just have this. And what I'm saying is, think about that. Did you create you? Did you put you here? How many of you made yourself? Okay. So what I would suggest is however you put that together is that which creates and makes. That's what determines the value. What I'm saying is I'm not in any place to determine my value because I don't know. In the same sense that I don't know, I don't get to critique and judge your value. What I would suggest though is that we're all the same. We all equal 1 or 10 or 100, whatever you want the number to be. Okay? That in terms of inherent value, I mean it's in the Constitution, all men are created equal. Right? You have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that these rights were given to us by our Creator, whatever that means to you. But the belief is that which creates determines the value. So that'd be another way to think about it, is I don't get to judge me and determine my value.
So if one of her golfers has the potential to take 4 or 5 strokes off of her game,
yeah,
from the time she's a freshman to a senior,
yeah.
where does that fit into what you're telling us?
Well, so let's use the golf analogy. One of the ways you could say to a kid is you need to take a stroke off a year. Okay, that's kind of fair, right? Every year you're going to take a stroke off. Okay, you came in with a 76 average. You're going to have a 72 by the end of your which would make you an All-American, by the way. Okay, and the way that you're going to do this is that you need to get better. That would be one way, and that would be what most coaches will say. What I would say to them is you're going to take a stroke off, okay? And the way you're going to do it is not by getting any better, but we're going to help you access your best more frequently and easily. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to help you have a best day more frequently than you currently do. Because one of the things that we ask the kids, if you were to go out right now and play, what would you shoot? Okay? And they'll give you a score of 65, mid-60s. Every now and then you have a kid say lower than that. And so what I say is, if that's your best, you don't need to be any better than that, because if you can play that, you're the best kid in college. Right? What I'm saying is when you're at your best, when you're having your best day, it doesn't need to be better than that. The question is, how do I get there more frequently? Maybe you have a best day once a week. Okay, then how do we get to help you have a best day twice a week? You see the difference? So it's how do I access my best, understanding that my best is more than enough, versus think about how a person's going to perform if they believe that their best isn't enough. That's discouraging, okay? I think it's also an error in thinking. That's the challenge that people have in the competitive arena. It's not that their best isn't enough, but they can't get to it more frequently. So what we work with golfers on is what are the things that get in your way, right? And eliminating it, right? So I mean, think about it kind of a Lego. Most people think that the way you get successful is you add more pieces to the Lego system, right? I'm gonna develop this skill, I'm gonna go to this class, I'm gonna read this book, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna add all these pieces on. Much of the work I do is about taking stuff away. Let's don't do this, let's don't think about this, let's don't concern ourselves with this, right? It's success by subtraction. But most people kind of take a success by addition rule. Am I answering your question, or am I getting close to it?
Yeah, I'm interpreting it as, you've got your best inside you. So you're saying, get there more often.
Yes.
Use what you're good at, great at, more often.
And identify what's keeping you from accessing it.
Yeah, eliminate
Okay.
obstacles.
Right. One of the things that eliminates you is that you believe that your best isn't enough. You hear what I'm saying? One of the things that keeps you from being at your best is your belief that your best isn't enough. And there's a word for that in the English language, and it's called shame. And what shame means is I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. But we've taken that concept, which is hurtful and destructive, and we've kind of dressed it up to is that's good that you want to be better. It's good that you're full of shame and you think you're not worthy enough. Go work harder. But what I'm saying is once people have drank the Kool-Aid on that, it's really hard to get them to kind of unwind that a little bit and see how this I'm never good enough is actually sabotaging them, not helping them. Because like I said, we live in a culture that lifts that up. Good, you're humble. Yeah, you're a hard worker. You're really driven, that's great. But you're ashamed of yourself. You don't think that you're ever going to be enough. See, the problem with is that getting better is about the future. But you don't live your life in the future. You don't live your life tomorrow. You're living your life right now. Okay? The game is happening right now. And if I'm not enough right now, I can't do it right now. This getting better is about what I'm going to do next week, next year, next month. But that's not where you live. You live right here, right now. That's why I think it's really important that the belief is I'm enough now. Because now is all you got. But we live in a future-based culture, right? That's why we have so much anxiety, right? The number one prescribed medication, Xanax is an anti-anxiety medication. And anxiety is worried about the future. So what I'm getting to is there's really only two fundamental beliefs that matter. The first belief is what you believe about yourself, okay? I'm enough or I'm not enough. You with me? Pay attention to that belief, okay? Am I enough or I'm not good enough? That belief is really critical. The second one that's critical is what's going to happen. Is it going to be okay or is it not going to be okay? If my fundamental belief is the boogeyman's coming and he's going to get me, okay, something bad's coming, it's not going to be okay, well, no wonder you don't sleep at night. No wonder you're a wreck. No wonder you're a nervous wreck. Because you're waiting for this terrible thing to happen, right? But those are the two beliefs, and we talked about this yesterday on the golf course. Same thing with a golfer, right? Do you think you're going to play well today? Do you think it's going to work out? Do you think that your best is good enough? As a competitive athlete, if I think I'm good enough and it's going to go well for me today, do you see how that sets me up to do well? If I think I'm enough, but I don't think it's going to be okay, do you see how that would sabotage me? So those are the two beliefs that I want you to really begin to think about. What do I believe about myself? Do I believe I'm enough? What do I believe is going to happen? Is it going to be okay or not? And those two beliefs are going to drive your success in a big, big way. Do we need to stop? More questions? Do I need to hush?
You're doing great. Let's continue the questions. Cole, any recommend? We got enough sound and everything for the questions? I would say if you do ask questions, speak louder than you think you need to. I mean, I'm not saying it's not good enough the way it is, but in this case, amplify a
You're
little.
saying do your best, right?
Yeah, do your best.
Do your best.
I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the comment that you made about the Lego, the Lego example that you used.
Yeah.
It's not by adding pieces to the structure, but by taking things off.
Yes.
And are you able to give us some examples
Yes.
of this subtraction? I mean, I'm interpreting it as focus, but maybe I'm thinking about it differently.
So what I want you to understand is how we think about ourselves and in our own growth. There's a cultural perspective that it's wrapped in, okay? So if you think about our education system, the education is about learning more things and developing competency and talent. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? But if you look at corporate America, okay, corporate America spends $150 billion a year in training and development, okay, $150 billion. And a third of that, $50 billion of it, is spent on leadership training. At the same time, about 68% of corporate companies say that when they need senior leadership, they have to go outside their company. In other words, we're doing all these development things, but it doesn't work. Most of the people, so there's certain things that so in other words, if I come to work for you, okay, at Walmart, and I don't know how to work Excel, you might say, Stan, we're going to put you in an Excel class and learn how to do that, right? And that would work, okay? But there are other things that we try to teach in a class or with information and it doesn't work, okay? If you're trying to learn how to hit the golf ball, you can go buy a book about reading the golf ball. But at some point in time, you're going to have to set that book down and you're going to have to go there and start swinging at golf balls, okay? And hitting a bunch of bad shots. So what I'm saying is our belief in corporate America as well as the education system is that it's all about acquiring new information. And what we haven't learned how to do is we haven't learned how to practice it, the doing it. And what I'm saying to you is as I work with people, part of what I find out inhibits them is some of the stuff that they believe about themselves and some of the stuff that they learn. Okay? What I'm saying to you is there's things that you believe that are true about yourself and the world that are holding you back. But our response to it is to go out and adapt and learn more. So I'm just saying it's a bias. And so that's what you see as you go and you take the training class and you get the book and you memorize the answer and you learn the this and the that, right? But what we know is that but there's no behavioral change at the end of it. Because of that, and I was a part of the problem, several years ago I started a leadership program for corporate clients that's very experiential. And here's what I said to corporate America. I said, when I left the sport arena and went to the corporate arena, what I realized the difference is in